Hello and welcome to PropTech Leadership Talk, where we speak with eminent PropTech leaders who are disrupting real estate with cutting-edge technology. I'm Ini, co-founder of ProptechBuzz, the world's largest B2B real estate ecosystem. Managing commercial real estate portfolio has always meant juggling impossible number of moving parts, from assets to leases, maintenance schedules, costs, contractors, and capital plans. These is often spread across disconnected systems, outdated spreadsheets, and endless emails. The result is that the people responsible for billions of dollars in assets are routinely making decisions on information that is days, weeks, or even months old. Our guest today built a solution to that problem from the inside out. James Wallace is the co-founder and managing director of SeeStuff, a cloud-based asset, property, and facilities management platform built by practitioners who lived the problem themselves. Based in New Zealand and expanding globally, SeeStuff brings assets, leases, maintenance, and cost into a single platform, giving asset managers and portfolio leaders the real-time visibility they need to move from reactive firefighting to proactive decision making. So without further ado, James, it is a real pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, that's great. I hope I did justice to the introduction, or maybe you can maybe just take a few seconds and just introduce yourself in case I didn't hit the nail on the head properly.
Yeah, no, look, you did really well. You did really well. So yeah, background for me is operated in the commercial property industry for 20 plus years. So is one of my other key co-founders. We work here in New Zealand and offshore in different parts of the world, sitting in different sorts of roles, from working within the owners or owner operators of large portfolios through to outsourced providers and a bit of a mix of different service offerings in there. So we kind of got a bit of a unique view from a number of different facets, which is where we started before we went into building the SeeStuff solution.
That's great. Speaking of that unique view, because you had this inside out perspective, my first question would actually start from there. So, SeeStuff was built by Kingfisher Group, a consultancy that actually worked inside asset and facilities management before building the software. That's a very different origin story to most of the tech founders that we actually speak to in prop tech and real estate. So, what exactly did you see working as a practitioner that convinced you that the existing tools in the market simply weren't good enough?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is when we started to look at going down this journey. As you say, we were practitioners. We had an advisory business. We were helping a lot of commercial property teams restructure how they operate, flush out efficiencies. We were also implementing a number of other technology solutions. And what we found is there's some fantastic solutions out there, but they were either very point solution focused, so they'd hone in and do something very well, but they would just do one thing, and it wouldn't necessarily tie into the wider ecosystem that is that property market that encompasses sort of that leases, facilities, maintenance, and a whole lot of other things. And where we got to is probably out of frustration of not being able to find what we really needed for our customers. So we made the bold choice of let's go and build it. And we've now been doing it for long enough that our thesis of what we had when we started this is now starting to be demonstrated by the data. So we know already that within 6 months of operating the platform, there's a number of different areas that our clients can get, or usually upwards of 40% efficiency within their maintenance delivery and asset delivery. And that's just one little aspect that also feeds into the asset lifecycle forecasting and lease renewals, etc. And I think we've got our superstar customer managed to flush out a 93% reduction in job time. And that just had a massive flow-on effect, better data, and a whole lot of other things. So our thesis was underpinned by re-engineering software and building it around how the industry operates. And it was kind of nice. We got to start with a blank piece of paper, which I don't think a lot of people get to do sometimes. And that's resulted in a bit of a different product to what we see out there.
Okay, so you
So
mentioned something about 40% with asset managers. How that's massive. I don't. Can you compare that to what the industry looks like? So why SeeStuff is different from every other option that exists out there? Because 40% is a lot. So can you just give some insight into that so that the property asset manager or that listening to us can actually see how valuable that is?
yeah, so I think part of that's us capitalizing on the industry as a whole maturing as well. So if you look at even if you went back say 20 years, property management, facilities management, asset management, the maintenance teams, they all kind of saw themselves as their own separate industry, and I think they do a little bit still to the same to the same extent, but nowhere near as bad as what it used to be. But those all disciplines, and there's a few more into the mix, are all starting to converge into one industry, and actually realizing that they're all the same and they're actually close cousins and they should be working together. And I suppose we one of the things that we've got with SeeStuff is we've taken that ecosystem approach where all of those different disciplines can be working within the same platform. So all of a sudden you're able to flush out a lot of we're able to remove a lot of duplication. We're able to arm people with more data than they had before, and that data actually be related in a way that makes sense for their roles, but is coming from other parts of the organization or other companies that they're working with looking after their properties. So there's a lot of efficiency that comes out of that. And then to the other extreme, because we're taking all of these parties and pulling them into one ecosystem solution, and that includes not just within the organization, that also includes outside parties or other contractors or outsourced providers, bringing them into it. That just creates a flywheel for us to really wind up around workflow efficiencies, automation, and leverage some of the technology that's been there for quite a long time. It's just been really hard to do while everybody's off operating in their own isolated little world for the same piece of property. So that part just didn't make sense to us, and that's one of the key reasons of why we can do that. We've also got some organisations that have actually managed to, and I'm probably a little bit unpopular for this, but have actually been able to terminate or move away from their old outsourced property management contracts with outsourced providers for the management portions, because we can do a huge chunk of that with technology and software now. Those organisations still outsource all of the trades and the hard asset management services, or deliver it themselves. But a lot of those administrative type functions, there's just no need to have a person doing them. We can help them reduce that cost and actually allow their people to move from sort of very administrative heavy to move into more of that strategic and tactical type management activity.
Great. So they're moving from being reactive now to being proactive with
Oh yeah.
systems. So that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for anybody to be using this. I have a question from based on like how SeeStuff started. So you're building this, or you started building this from New Zealand, a market that doesn't immediately come to mind when people think about prop tech innovation. Has this been an advantage, or has this been able to has this helped you get some insight that maybe other people may not have seen with you building C stuff?
Yeah, look, I think look, I'm biased on New Zealand, so I'm always going to say, yeah, it's great. It's an amazing place to live, but I think we've got a few really key ingredients that help us, that have helped us establish and build a bit of software that has a lot of benefit to cross-pollinate and operate in other markets. So if you look at the New Zealand ingredients that we've got to deal with, we're a country that's geographically larger than the UK, I think, but we've only got 5.5 million people. So we're very geographically spread throughout that. So we don't have a huge pool of talent to just keep deploying on work. So and we don't have a huge economy that goes with that. So we've got to, everything we do has to operate very efficiently. We're always looking for work at our workflows, how we make those smarter and better. And then on top of that, our geography that we've got here, we have a lot of natural disasters, unfortunately, whether those are floods. We're an incredibly earthquake-prone area, so we've got fault lines all through our country, so we deal with a lot of stuff like that. And we've got big swings in temperature sort of cities as well. We've got some that are well below freezing in winter, and those same cities you're looking for the closest building with air conditioning in the middle of summer. So we've got a lot of those different things. On top of that, we've got active geothermal areas where air conditioning units can only last a year if you don't look after them properly and stuff. So all of that kind of makes a really cool testing ground to make and build software that can deal with a lot of things and really stress test it.
Yeah.
So we're quite grateful that we've managed to build it out here. And as we're now starting to go into other markets and looking at the Australian market and UK and further, there's a lot of, I'll say, stuff that we've stress tested here that is showing early signs of being really beneficial in those markets. And it's not a criticism of the markets. I think those markets are doing absolutely awesome. It's just we've had to create some of those, I'll call them different ways of working and different solutions purely out of necessity. And I think that's a pretty privileged position to be in, to be honest.
That's great. So you mentioned UK, you mentioned Australia. Just wanted to be sure that we've captured the markets that you're currently existing in. Could you maybe just mention them so anyone that's in these markets can see that they can use SeeStuff for?
Yes. So we're operating. We've got a good hold in New Zealand at the moment, and we've started going into Australia. So we've already got properties up and running in the Australian market. Usually those are, I'm just trying to recall off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure they are Sydney and Melbourne, and we're looking to focus more on that market in the back half of 2026 and into 2027, and we're in the early stages of looking at the first few buildings in the UK as well. So anybody in those markets, more than happy to have a conversation.
Sure. Speaking of conversations, customers make markets. I want to talk about like a customer use case that maybe you've experienced using SeeStuff that you can share with us. Any type of experience, maybe a customer situation, a conversation, or a problem you witnessed that with someone you were speaking to or something that just highlighted the need for SeeStuff.
So you're meaning like right at the start of when we went, yeah, let's do this, or
Yes.
more recently?
Either way, anyone that you feel comfortable with.
Fair enough. I think probably going back to the one of the catalysts actually. So we'd already decided we were going to start doing it, or we'd been toying with the idea, and we were partway through our strategy plan of building the team up and building out this product. We were doing some advisory work for a client at the time, and what we saw is they'd already gone out and they'd procured a software platform to be running exactly what we can do. It was going to be running their leasing, their maintenance, their facilities management, their asset management, all through the one. They'd purchased this thing, and part of our advisory contract was actually leading the implementation of it. And what we found is when we started digging into it, it was a really good product, but it was very much built around finance, or from a finance basis. And it was also built very much with a software mindset, which may sound a little bit odd, given we are a software company. And as we were starting to work through that project, it became very apparent that the client was going to have to adapt how they operated significantly. And the product, whilst good, because it wasn't built around how the industry operates, there was a lot of workarounds that the team were having to create for that client to actually flush out any level of tangible benefit or cost or payback out of that product. So I think when we started seeing a few of those things, we had a few aha moments that really demonstrated that if we were going on this journey, we needed to be sitting alongside our customers all the time. And our product still, or now, has a whole lot of stuff in it and functionality that was never on our radar to build, but we got feedback from the customers, and by sitting with them, we learned so much around actually if we changed just a couple of things within our software, we could flush out a lot more value for those customers. So we were the ones proactively chasing that. And then I think the real nail in the coffin for us was we actually built out a whole lot of real world scenarios and gave them to the vendor and went, you need to show us how we can do this. And they all sat there and went, yep, but we can't show you, but we'll build it, we'll customize it. And what we realized is a lot of the products that are a lot more, that usually deliver a lot more value, there's a lot of them that they're quality products, but they're very much like a box of Lego. And you get a great picture on the outside, but you get home and you open up the box and you're like, oh, I've got instructions and a bag of bricks. I got to build the thing myself or pay someone to build it. And we sort of looked at that and went, I think we can do that a little bit better. Let's create an amazing way of working. Let's make it so that clients can configure it around how they want to work and what's important to their organization. But let's make it off the shelf as much as possible so that people don't have to go through that long onboarding, the cost of implementation, the burning of hours. So that was sort of our approach with that. And I think that project was very much, you can see a lot of the battle scars out of that project that fitted into our overall thesis.
That's great. So speaking about the thesis of SeeStuff itself, want to for people that have been listening to this and they're wondering, oh, this sounds great. I want to use this. Could you tell us what the features are for SeeStuff that someone like me may want to, if I want to get into it, that will be really beneficial for me? And another way to phrase this question would be if it was my first time hearing about this stuff. What are the things that I'm looking out for by trying out the products that I want to see that 40% you mentioned before in my portfolio?
It's a long list. How long have we got?
Just let us know what the big ones are. So
that's fair enough. Essentially, it's an all-in-one platform for operating your commercial property. So it's agnostic to what sort of model you're using as well, whether you're outsourced and insourced, whether you're running on leased properties or you own the properties. The product works, and even if you've got a mix. So the product can do everything from your sort of break fix, maintenance, scheduled activities, auditing, all of your asset register management, life cycle forecasting, building out your forward capital plans. We can do all your purchasing, everything from resource management, timesheeting, invoicing as well. It all integrates into finance systems. Your contractor management, health and safety, your asbestos management. If you've got spatial models, so I know there's a lot of cool stuff out there in the market around spatial models and drone models and all those sorts of things. And what we do is we don't try and replicate those spatial things, but if you've got cool functionality or tools like that on third-party products, we help bring those into SeeStuff itself and couple that with the asset management and the maintenance workflow so that your team are accessing all of that stuff in their day-to-day working rather than it just being a cool thing that sits on the shelf that no one ever touches but you like to show off to people. So it kind of takes that all-encompassing there. So someone implements it across a property. It becomes the system for the property itself. And then all of the contractors and outsourced providers, owners, tenants, everybody starts operating through the product or interacting with the product. So it kind of becomes the single hub of everything. And it starts allowing you to unlock massive amounts of data from all of those people, but all that data is nice and aligned and can actually be used. It's not sitting in a whole lot of different spreadsheets and different formats and those sorts of things. So as soon as we've got that, then we're able to sort of streamline your workflows, streamline the data sets, utilize all of that information to actually automate activities, and also start providing a higher level of automated analysis and insight and recommendations for your properties. So, as an example, if you've got all of that up and running, and you've got your asset registers sitting in there, we'll look at, say, for instance, an HVAC unit, and can actually forecast out the year that, based on the data, when we think that should be replaced. You can plan that replacement in the product, and then if it starts deviating off its life cycle curve by certain activities that are happening, the system's letting you know and going, hey, hang on a minute here, this thing's not going to quite make it. You need 10 years out of this, and it's only going to do 7. So it'll do a lot of that sort of stuff for you as well, right through to budgeting and all of that. So it's quite, as I say, the list is getting quite long now. And the way the product works is our modeling or pricing model is customers, you buy the product, you get the product. We're not here to quibble about, user charges, per seat charges, what modules do you want. So every time we bring on a new module, we just add it onto your license turned off. And then, our clients are in control of going into their admin panel and turning those things on. So that was one of the big things for us, is as we're doing and building out functionality, we just keep adding that to people's licenses, and that's that has caused a situation where it feels like we're drinking from a fire hose at times, with ideas of, hey, have you thought about this, and what about this? But it's kind of cool, because it means it's a very client-driven product as well. So there's functions that are in the system now that I think I mentioned before, we never thought we would ever build. It was never even on our radar, but it was very much clients going, well, you do everything else for me really, really well, and I've got this one other bit of software over here. I'd love to get rid of this bit of software and move that into SeeStuff. So we just went and built the required functionality inside their workflows. And now we've got some clients that have been able to turn off up to 20 bits of software and move into one, which software is not cheap to run. So there's quite a big saving there. I'm
sure it's saving money for your clients as well.
Yeah. So I think it's probably, as I say, anything to do with that commercial property asset, even if you want your IFRS 16 reporting, it automates all of that sort of stuff, which I'm sure there's a few property teams around the world that don't enjoy spending time in spreadsheets doing that every year.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking, what does it look like pre-SeeStuff and post-SeeStuff? And I think you've actually explained a lot of, and the 40% makes a lot of sense now, because you can see how you're paying for all this. I don't think data was ever an issue for like asset managers, but it's just in different places. It's clustered all over. But now there's an all-in-one solution for that, right?
Yeah, it is, and I think you're right that data was never really an issue for asset managers. I think there was always more data than was needed. I'm a big believer that more data is not always good data, and sometimes you're better off with a smaller data set that's more aligned to how you operate. So it's quite, we've got some organizations that we've gone into that there was one recently that, before implementing SeeStuff, their asset register just for their property, their buildings, was around 500,000 line or 500,000 rows. As we've worked through that with them, we've helped them pull together things like asset data management frameworks as part of the system implementation to get really honest with themselves around how they operate. And when they looked at how they operated, they sort of there were a few aha moments of, actually we're capturing a lot of data and sending people out to capture a lot of stuff that we're never using, and it's actually making our downflow renewals planning and forecasting really awkward and creating us work further down. So they were able to cull out and consolidate a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense for them. And they've now got a smaller data set, but it's a whole lot more richer. and it's actually aligned to how they work. So a lot of the time, the before and afters, um, befores, we only get a small glimpse of that. I can probably more talk of the afters and what we sort of notice through the implementation. But usually we find teams are a lot more closer aligned. I still find it odd when we're doing implementations for customers and we're sitting in there, or our team is sitting in there, and we've met some of their own internal team members more than the internal team members are, or we're introducing team members from the same organization. Hey, this is Barry from finance with Janet from the facilities team. Have you guys met? So I think part of, because of the way our system works and the level of interactions it can have within an organization, I think the big takeaways are everybody's usually a lot more tightly connected afterwards, and that results and shows up in a whole lot of different areas.
That's great. Just wanted to plug this in right now because I think we've brought a lot of context to SeeStuff. If anyone is wondering how to use SeeStuff, I think I'll give James a chance to maybe go to the website and maybe demo it a little bit for you. But on Proptechbuzz, you can also, just trying to share my screen right now, just 1 second. You can also go to proptechbuzz.com. There's a CRE assets management platform. So this is CRE assets management I'm showing you right now, and you will see SeeStuff. This is not launched. This is in the process of getting launched this month, but you can see SeeStuff here, and from here you can actually go through all that they have. You can interact with the platform. You can also click on the websites, but I don't want to do that myself. I'll let James do that. I think it's a good way to bring the conversation, just tie in the conversation. If you can just show us on the websites what we've been discussing. So yes, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Let's remove that. So yeah, James, you can just tie everything together with maybe just one quick demo of the websites if you can.
All right. So look, hey, this is a bit of a quick overview. So obviously this is the core system itself. So these modules, this is just a quick demo account. There's a whole lot more than this, and this gets larger and smaller based on user permissions. All the dashboards sit in here, and they're all interactive, and these are based and configured around all clients' needs. So every person and within the client has different dashboards, obviously, and we can sort of start to look at things like how much you're costing per square meter, and logging, and whether it's asset end of lives, different types of jobs, and how much things are costing, and so forth. Runs everything from your reactive to your scheduled maintenance. You can actually run project jobs through here as well. I'm just going to quickly jump into sort of life cycle forecasting. You can come in, you can look at individual portfolios, and this starts running out life cycle forecasts based on all the asset data sets that are sitting in there as well. On top of that, you can have notifications out to your building users. You can have alerts. You can even do payroll through there. I think that was one I didn't mention earlier. So yeah, these are sort of some of the functions. So that's sort of just a bit of an overview of what the system looks like.
Sure. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm sure that this is just a glimpse. Anybody that wants to use it should get in and start using it. And, we would like to know what your feedback is. So thank you very much for joining us, Proptechbuzz, and we're so proud to share SeeStuff. I think when we have conversations with founders that have been in the system and then have developed solutions that actually fit the problems that exist within the system, is always an interesting conversation for us. So thank you so much, James, for joining us.
No, awesome. Hey, really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you.